Hi everybody, welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're talking about one of the world's smallest countries. Have you ever been to a really tiny country?
Well, I don't want to, not to say anything bad, but compared to Canada, where I'm from, Taiwan's a pretty tiny country.
Yeah, there is that.
But nothing like the country we're going to be talking about. So you're thinking like Liechtenstein or Vatican City or, one of those famously really, really, really small countries. Monaco.
I've been to Macau.
Macau's pretty
basically
small.
Basically just a city and some surrounding area.
But it's kind of part of China. But yeah, Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore. Right. Those are some pretty small places. But no, I've never been to one of the famous, really, really tiny countries like the one we're going to be learning about today, or even what is generally considered the smallest country in the world, the Vatican City in Rome. No, never been there.
Okay, well, let's learn what this tiny country is in day one of our article.
Reading.
Welcome to Sealand, the world's smallest country. It was Christmas Eve, 1966, and former British Army Major Paddy Roy Bates parked his small boat at an old concrete structure. He'd traveled 11 kilometers from the coast of England to an abandoned sea fort in search of the perfect Christmas gift for his wife, Joan. What was the gift? The fort itself. The World War II fort might not have seemed like a palace, but Bates had big plans for it. First, he set up a private radio station on the fort. Bates soon realized, though, that the fort didn't belong to any country, as it sat in international waters. So on September 2nd, 1967, he declared his own independent country, the Principality of Sealand. At first, the British government wasn't happy about a micronation being located so close. One day, ships were sent to destroy the fort, but Bates' son, Michael, fired a warning shot. This caused the ships to turn back to Britain. As a result of this incident, Bates was brought to court in England. However, the judge decided that he couldn't be sentenced, as the incident didn't happen in Britain. Bates took the decision as the first recognition that Sealand was an independent country.
So the article starts by kind of telling the story of the creation of this country. It was Christmas Eve 1966, and former British Army Major Paddy Roy Bates parked his small boat at an old concrete structure.
So he's out in the middle of the water, I guess, if he's on a boat.
He's on a boat, and he's pulled up against this thing.
But it's not an island, it's a concrete structure.
Right, so concrete is a man-made building material. It's sand, gravel, cement, and water, pretty much. So it's the stuff we use for buildings everywhere, for all kinds of structures. It's good to use, it's strong, it lasts a long time, it's easy to make, and it's not too expensive. So it's a big building material. And here, though, it's not a house, but it is a structure.
Okay, well, yeah, a structure could be a house, but basically a structure is a building of any kind. So it's not a natural thing. It's not a hill or a mountain or a tree or a forest. It's made by people, but it could be anything from a house or something even smaller than a house, a little cabin in the woods or something like that. Or it could be Taipei 101. It could be an airport. It could be a bridge. It could be anything made of concrete and steel or iron, designed by people, built by construction workers and engineers and all that kind of stuff. But as I say, structures come in many shapes and sizes. We often think of them as buildings, but we can also think of bridges and tunnels and all that kind of stuff. It's made by people, and we use these things in all sorts of ways. For example, do you know what that structure they're putting up in the park will be used for?
Bands on a stage.
Could be for concerts, could be for some kind of, advertising program, sports, who knows? But they're building something out there in the park, and we don't know what that structure is. So this is a structure, it's out in the water, it's made of concrete, and a guy went there with his boat.
Yeah, now let's find out a bit more about where and why, and of course, what this is. So he, Bate, this guy, a former army soldier, an officer, he'd traveled 11 kilometers from the coast of England to an abandoned sea fort in search of the perfect Christmas gift for his wife, Joan.
Okay.
All right, is this a treasure hunt? What's on this old fort?
If it's abandoned, he's not going shopping there because it means there's nothing there.
Exactly, it's an abandoned place, something that has been abandoned. It could mean that somebody has left it behind, like an abandoned bag, an abandoned car, you do something like that. Or it could mean all the people have gone, the people have left it, an abandoned house, an abandoned railway station.
An abandoned dog.
Oh yeah, you'd leave that somewhere and go away, you desert it and just leave it behind.
Don't do that.
So we could say the hikers found an abandoned cabin in the middle of the forest. So it was their little house, but there was no one in it. No one has been in it for ages. It had been abandoned.
Right.
Now, this wasn't a cabin, though. This was a fort.
Yes, exactly. So this is something that was used. Anything abandoned, it was used before, but something changed, something happened. Maybe there was a problem. Maybe life just happened, moved on and people left it and walked away. In this case, what was abandoned was a structure, but this is a fort. Now, a fort is a kind of structure used in fighting wars, in the military. Think of it as basically a small castle. Inside a fort, you wouldn't find a king living there a long time ago. No, it's mainly made just for soldiers and their equipment, guns and horses or whatever, but it would have thick, strong walls, it would have towers, you might have places in your fort to shoot out at the bad guys who are all around you. I think these forts were built during World War II, and they used them to shoot at airplanes or boats that were coming close to Britain, because that's what forts are. They're places used to put guns and soldiers to help fight wars and things like that. If you want to find a fort here in Taiwan, well, you're in luck. There are several. Here's one example. The Dutch built their first fort near Tainan in 1624. Came Anping Fort, or Fort Zeelandia.
Yes.
And you can still see a more modern version of that fort even today.
Yep, you've got the one up in Danshui as well, and so on, yeah. So why was this soldier here, or this ex-soldier? He was in search of a Christmas gift. If you're in search of something, you're looking for it, you're trying to find it, but not just kind of casually. It's more of a, I've got an idea what I'm looking for, and it's maybe going to take me a while, it's not going to be easy, but I know what I want, and I'm out to get it.
That's right. Now, most husbands or people, when they're looking for a Christmas gift, they go to a shop or a department store or downtown. They don't go to an abandoned fort in the middle of the ocean. So here's the question, what was the gift? What was he trying to give his wife for Christmas? Well, simple, the fort itself. He wanted to give his wife an old, empty, abandoned fort. I hope his wife loves him very much. Well, because many wives would go, what are you, crazy? What am I going to do with an abandoned fort?
Well, as the article says, the World War II fort, so timing is right there, the World War II fort might not have seemed like a palace.
It wasn't.
But Bates had big plans for it. So we've got a grammar structure to explain there. Let's go to today's language in focus. So today's language in focus is the use of might have, may have, and could have, all followed by the PP form of a verb. And these indicate the possibility of something in the past. So might have, may have, and could have all kind of mean the same thing. Something in the past is possible. Might and may, basically might is just a little more common in modern speech. Could have means the same kind of thing. Where's Peter? I don't know. He might have gone out, he may have gone out, he could have gone out. They all mean the same thing. It's possible that he went out. Now, if we put not in there, we can make it a negative. Might not have and may not have, they also show possibility. We're not sure as a negative. Whereas Peter, we don't know, he might not have or may not have finished work. They mean the same thing. Might is just more common in speech than may. But when we use could not have, this is a strong negative. It shows that something is impossible. So here are some examples. John is not here. He might have gone out. He may have gone to the gym. He couldn't have gone by car. It's still here. He might not have remembered to leave us a note. So we say this old fort might not have seemed like a palace.
No, it definitely wasn't a palace, because a palace is a grand home that rich people, probably royal people, would live in. Kings and queens live in palaces. I don't think even rich people might call their home a palace. But basically, this is the kind of thing that we would imagine Queen Elizabeth living in. Of course, she does live in a palace, Buckingham Palace, that beautiful big home that she lives in the middle of London there. Palaces are a bit different from castles because generally they're not surrounded by walls. They have big windows. They're made more to be very beautiful, to really impress the visitors, but they're not made to sort of fight wars from or protect people. Another famous palace that you would definitely check out if you were on holiday in Europe, of course, can be found just outside Paris. The Palace of Versailles near Paris was built by the French king Louis XIV, and it's got like 700 rooms and gold, gold everywhere. No walls, though. It's a beautiful giant home for a king and a queen and their family. So this wasn't that.
No.
This wasn't a palace.
But this guy, Paddy Roy Bates, he had plans. Big plans.
Okay.
We see first, he set up a private radio station on the fort.
Of course.
Yeah, so we also call this a pirate radio station.
That's true, yeah.
It's not exactly legal, but you can broadcast and people could listen to you. And of course, if you're not legal, you can kind of do and say what you want with it.
Well, okay. And yeah, back in the 1960s, this was kind of a popular thing, right? There was another radio station on a boat that also people in Britain could listen to, but the police might not have been happy. But the idea was, you're out there in the water, as it says. Bates soon realized, though, that the fort didn't belong to any country, as it sat in international waters. So this is 11 kilometers from Britain, but Britain doesn't actually own this part of the ocean. Who does? What country does? No country does. So he's like, wait a minute, if I live here, I'm my own country.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, pretty much anything that's far enough away from any coast is international waters.
Okay.
And the law, basically, there's a kind of an agreed law by the UN to sort of decide what can happen. But it's difficult to police, so a lot of stuff
you're out in the middle of the water.
A lot of stuff can happen out there.
Yeah.
So we see. So on September the 2nd, 1967, so that's a year or so later, he declared his own independent country, the Principality of Sealand.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that George Washington might have done 100 years ago, or hundreds of years ago, but 50 years ago, most people didn't go around declaring their own countries. But when you declare something, everyone has to pay attention because this sounds important.
It is. To declare something is to officially state this thing. It's an announcement that everybody is going to listen to, or it'll be recorded. And it's especially used to formally announce the beginning or sometimes the end of something. You declare war. We say we're officially at war with that country. We're going to declare independence. We're not part of them anymore. We're on our own. We're completely independent. And we need to find out what that word means.
We do. All right, and if you're independent, well, this adjective basically means you're free to do whatever you want. You're free to make your own decisions. You don't have to follow other people's rules or live the way other people might tell you. We often use this when talking about countries and politics. When one area of land is controlled by another country, but those people don't want to be part of that country, they might say that they are independent. Let's talk about another small country that's independent. You might have heard of this one. Andorra is a small, independent country in the mountains between France and Spain, two big countries nearby, but little Andorra, it's independent. It's free to do what it wants.
So, he's declared this independent country.
That's right.
And he called it the Principality of Sealand.
Okay, so not the kingdom.
No.
Not the nation.
No.
The principality.
Not the republic.
Not the republic. Okay.
Okay, it's not a democracy.
No.
It's a principality. A principality is a country that is ruled by, as the name suggests, a prince. Now, in the old days of kind of European wars and lots of independent states and nations, there were a lot of little areas and countries that just had princes. They didn't have kings.
Okay.
There may have only been cities, and they had a prince of the city. These days, there aren't too many principalities left around. And if they are, they're kind of part of other countries. Wales in the UK is a principality. Charles is the Prince of Wales.
Okay.
Monaco is a principality.
That's
it's ruled by a prince, but there is no king. So he declared, so this little fort in the ocean, it's my principality. I'm the prince.
Okay.
I'm in charge.
So he's not the king of Sealand, he's the prince of Sealand, but basically he's the boss, he's in charge. Now at first, when this news came out, when this man decided that he's making his own country, at first the British government wasn't happy about a micronation being located so close. This is an unusual thing, and even though it's a small place out in the water near the country, the British government there in London were like, we don't really like this idea, because what if lots of people do this? What if an enemy country comes and takes over that little place, and now they're sitting right there next to your country in this little micronation?
And more importantly, why don't you pay taxes anymore?
Also, why don't you pay taxes? And what if there's a crime? Who's going to be in charge of all that? So many questions about this. And these are the questions that these micronations often bring up. This is an unusual word. We don't use it very often just because there aren't many of these places around in the world. But basically, it's a really, really small country. It's not like maybe Macau or Hong Kong that are controlled by a nearby larger country. It's basically an independent country. But because of its land area, just the size of it on a map, we wouldn't call it a nation, which is a country. We call it a micronation. In other words, a very, very small country.
Now, it says it's independent, but one of the other things, it's not recognized by most of the world.
No.
So this guy Bates, he says, we're an independent little country here, but it's not like the UN immediately said, okay, welcome in, have a vote, that kind of thing. No, nobody recognized it. They were like, who's this guy and what's he doing?
He wasn't invited to the Olympics.
No, he was not. Okay, so the British are not too happy about it. We see one day ships were sent to destroy the fort.
Whoa!
There's an official declaration of war, perhaps. Whoa. Maybe not official, because it's not an official country.
True.
But ships are sent. But Bates's son, Michael, fired a warning shot.
Wow.
So he didn't fire at the ships. He didn't actually try to sink these British ships.
Hurt anyone on the boat.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was a warning shot. A warning is something you do to tell people there is danger. There's not danger right now, this second, immediately, but there will be. You let people know before the reality is there. We could also say it's an alert. You're going, be careful, look out, this could happen if you keep going. A warning shot is when you fire above or very near to the boat, and it means I didn't try to hit you there, but I can. If you come closer, I will try to hit you.
You're definitely trying to get their attention, but not trying to hurt them yet.
Okay, so we could say when warning lights started to flash, the pilots knew their plane was in trouble.
So this is almost like the police moved in to try to get these people off their little island, out of their little micronation. But the people, they didn't want to leave. So what happened? Well, this caused the ships to turn back to Britain. I guess the people on the ship, either they were soldiers or police, decided, okay, well, we don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want him to shoot us. We don't want to hurt them. So these people are serious. We're going to go away and come back with another plan later on, I suppose.
And what was the plan? We see as a result of this incident, Bates was brought to court in England. Yeah, and as a result of what happened. So we can use the phrase as a result or as a result of something, and this is used to show the results of a thing we previously mentioned. If we just say as a result, the thing we mentioned was in a previous sentence. If we say as a result of and then add something, then it's that noun or noun phrase or something that is causing the conclusion which we mention in the next clause. So we're saying he went to court as a result of this incident.
All right, well, an incident is basically something that happens, some kind of event or circumstance or situation. Generally, though, this is something a little bit more than normal. And often, if I saw the word incident in the news, I would think of a crime or an accident. It could be a funny incident that happens to you, where something interesting and unusual and not your everyday kind of event or situation happens. That's why we call it an incident.
Yeah.
So luckily, in this incident, no one got hurt,
Yep.
but someone did get in trouble.
Yes, they had to go to court. However, the judge decided that he, so that's Michael who fired the shot, couldn't be sentenced as the incident didn't happen in Britain. Like, this is not in the UK. I can't make a rule about this.
There is that line in the ocean, and their island is outside that line, so it's not Britain. Interesting. Bates took the decision as the first recognition that Sealand was an independent country. If a thing happened here, and the British government is saying wherever that happened, it's not Britain, then they go, well, okay, well, so if we're not Britain, we're independent.
Yep.
Thank you. They've got recognition.
Indeed.
Recognition is basically when someone looks at you and kind of gives you some rights. They kind of see you as an independent person, see you as making your own decisions, and this is official. This isn't just your friend's opinion or what your family thinks of. This is probably through the law, through some kind of government agency or government official or something like that.
Well, we'll find out more about Sealand and what's happening with it even to this day tomorrow, but right now we're going to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
The question is, do you think micronations such as Sealand should be allowed to exist? Why or why not?
Well, I would say as an idea, yeah, sure, why not? But I'm not a lawyer. There would be a lot of questions here that I can't possibly think of. And, sometimes people take these simple ideas and then they just get really, really silly with them.
Yes.
What if I had a micronation and I said, okay, everyone, we can make and sell illegal, dangerous drugs? Well, that would be a really, really bad thing, a bad idea, right? So in that case, no. But if it's just someone who, wants to live their life in a slightly different but safe way, yeah, okay, but I don't know. So I would say no.
I tend to agree.
Because people can get weird and strange and crazy.
I think it causes more problems than it actually solves. And unless it's going to be some kind of just for tourism thing, then then I would say, best not. It's going to cause more problems.
So you think Disneyland could be a micronation?
I think it should be. I would like to use Disney money there and have a Disney passport.
And I think that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
But in other situations, it could be really bad.
Right. Yeah. We'll find out a bit more about what Sealand can do tomorrow. Join us then. Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Structure. The government is going to knock down this old structure to make room for new buildings. Abandoned. Everyone thought the abandoned house was dangerous because no one has lived there for 20 years. Fort. The army built this fort to help protect the country during World War II. Palace. The king ordered his people to build him a new palace to live in with his queen. Independent. Ireland became independent from the UK in 1922. It's been its own country ever since that year. Warning. The teacher gave his students a warning that they'd get extra homework if they didn't be quiet.
智慧小补帖
concrete. Declare. Principality. Incident.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net